All right, we're live now. Real Talk with Faisal Karmali live on Instagram and Facebook. And we have to go through what just happened over the last few months. And we have to get different perspectives from different business leaders, different entrepreneurs. And I've got Shane Wenzel. He's from Shane Home Group of Companies, and Arif Maherali. He's of MVMNT Media. We're going to have different conversations here, not just your normal of, oh my God, things are so different. We're going to look at the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to talk about some serious happenings that occurred with these business owners and their conversations with their other companies that they deal with or other entrepreneurs they've been speaking to. And I want you out there, feel free to send us your questions. You've got some smart people here who are willing to share their expertise, their advice, and their experience just with you. So feel free to reach out with us on Facebook or Instagram. I'm going to start off, Shane, we've had a crazy few months. You are in the business to build homes and multifamily. Yeah. What a big change this happens to you. Give us your experience. What have you gone through?
Well, this has been an incredible 10, 11 weeks since this all blew up. My partner and I were on a vacation. We came back, and within about 3 days, I'm sitting in my boardroom with my executive management team, and we're writing COVID protocols for, how we're going to manage business over the next whatever while. So we ended up, reducing show home hours, canceling service calls, working remotely, which we honestly weren't prepared for. Like a lot of businesses out there, but we're distancing staff, we're splitting shifts, we're limiting trades on site. I mean, the whole gambit of business and how it just changes overnight. But I'm most proud of our team for coming together and pulling off what I think is an absolute miracle in a short period of time. But boy, what a shock to the system.
Yeah, what a shock for sure. Arif, when we talk about MVMNT Media, we talk about, similar to Shane, you have employees inside, you have employees out in the field, going out there doing their thing, creating content for your clients and so forth. Walk us through your experience over the last few months.
Yeah, I mean, similar to Shane, we were flying back from Phoenix, not so close as you were, Shane, but flying back, business was going great. I would say 2020 was starting out with a bang. It was actually going to look like an amazing year. And then, we heard grumblings of COVID through the news, but it really wasn't taking here just yet. And then I think it was around March 18th or something where it was a Sunday, in the news, they were saying, okay, things are shutting down or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And on Monday, my phone went off the hook. And never have I ever had to deal with multiple clients calling over each other, not knowing what was on the other end.
Wow.
And that was a scary place to be for a business no time to think, no time to strategize, no time to even give them any type of reassurance or anything. It was that quick. And so luckily for us, all the calls were positive from their end. And I was in shock. I had, it kind of emotional in the sense, like every call I was afraid. And all it was them reassuring us, saying, listen, we may scale back digital spend, advertising, just because of the sensitivity of the times and stuff, but we're still on the path. And it was amazing. So it allowed me that first week to kind of stop, gather my thoughts, get my team to the table and say, okay, guys, this is what's happening. And so Faisal and Shane, I know you guys are huge fans about getting the team together and explaining to them what's happening. And that's exactly where my mind went. It was, okay, how do I reassure my clients and my team and be transparent with what's happening? And that even means with my business. You know, what could possibly happen here, and what can we do as a team to add value? So it was every day, it was different thoughts that were coming through my mind and how to kind of rein this in. And then, you know, as it phased through, you know, 11 weeks, it's like a breakup. It's, you go through all these emotions. And so I would say the number one thing that came out of this, and Faisal, Shane, you can comment on this, it is the word exposure. And what I mean by exposure is I was exposed to myself, I was exposed to my business, I was exposed to my employees or my contractors, and I had to analyze from almost like someone, like an angel up in the corner of the room looking down saying, holy crap, I've got all this in front of me and now I have to do something. And it exposed great things about my business and about myself. It also exposed things that maybe needed to change. And this was the time that we could literally sit back and look at ourselves and our business and say, you know what, before when things were busy, I knew that was an issue, but I just let it ride because we had no time to deal with it. Now I was able to, and you know, that's people, that's all of that stuff. So I don't know, I'm curious to hear your guys' comments on the word exposure.
Yeah, I'll jump in there. I'll give you my experience of this whole pandemic and how it impacted us here. We've gone through crises with our clients before, but it was never here at home where people are at a health risk. So when I'm speaking to my clients, they're coming to me saying, oh, my wealth is at risk and my health could be at risk. My family, the world could be coming to an end. And so panic sets in from their perspective. And my job is to do more research of not just what's happened here locally in Calgary, but around the world. And I was taking it for granted, to be honest with you, because I was accustomed to working 12-hour days until this pandemic hit, and then I got to shoot it up to 18-hour days, and I was like, wow, and now I'm too old for this, you know? Can I continue doing this? How long? And so we're watching the curve purely for how much sleep I could get. And it was, and like you said, Arif, it was exposure, because in previous crises in the past, our team was still in the same location. We were able to strategize immediately. We didn't have the need for as much technology. And now our team, I've got 14 people in 10 different locations, all with different types of technology at their disposal. And we're still trying to communicate, take care of our clients, and still be on top of things. So you spend more hours, you do a little bit of work that you weren't expecting to do, but at the end, we realized how quickly we had exposure. And Arif, you mentioned some of the things that your clients might have said. We actually had to increase our marketing, our exposure in the media, social media especially, because that was the one way we can communicate to everybody at the exact same time about what's going on. And my clients are not at that time accustomed to social media. They were the old, shake your hands and sit across the table from you. And here they are now checking everything out on all the major social platforms, like the two of them that we're on right now, and they're just getting their updates. So we had to up our game that way, which was scary, because more people had to look at my face, and not scary as it is. But it comes down to them being comfortable using that technology. So it was a challenge. And Shane, I was going to jump to you on this one. You did something years ago called a virtual tour of your homes. Who would have thought that would have been the way to handle it in this pandemic? So there was maybe not foresight of a pandemic, but foresight of what your client and customer wants.
Well, and that's very true. We could see that change coming a number of years ago, because we had literally watched the traffic slowly decline over the years. And, people were looking for a different way of shopping rather than just randomly driving around the neighborhoods. So to sit there and say that, we had most of our models in a virtual tour was a huge benefit going into this. And we already had a social media presence, so we were ahead of the curve in some regards. We were behind the curve in others, but we rallied. We made it happen, and we made it happen quick. We even became specialists at doing our own video in the house because we had to communicate with our customers. We had to communicate with our trade partners. We had to let people know that we were still open for business, because there was that fear that, of course, everything shut down. Well, now, what is shut down? That was the big question. And we had the virtual tours of show homes. We had customers that we had to do interior and exterior colors with. So in cases, we were actually doing virtual selections with them as well. So we kudos to the team that I have down at the office there. They rallied and they made something happen really quick and accommodating. And quite honestly, they probably moved us at least 5 years forward from where we currently were.
Arif,
yeah, and Shane,
when I go sorry, Arif, I just wanted to jump in there and talk about when I started seeing issues come across going into Europe with the pandemic. This would have been January, February. I reached out to you and said, we'll need to get more exposure into the digital side, because communication is going to be key and we got to get that out there. And I reached out to you and we started working on some strategies and some ideas. Not all your clients did that. Some of your clients, like you said, scaled back when March hit. What are you still learning from this? What's the challenge that you're having at this point in time, now that we're months into this pandemic?
Great question. And yeah, you totally nailed that on the head. So the challenges that I'm still seeing is, one of the challenges is, Shane, absolutely, that I've told you this numerous times. Your team has been ahead of its time when it's come to the digital side, and we're going to call it communications. And Faisal, you and I have talked a lot about this word marketing, and now I really want to drive home the word communications, because marketing is quite broad. You've got branding, you've got marketing, but the key right now is communications. And the challenge I'm seeing still with this digital push that we've all been kind of cornered to do now is confusion on what it means for a brand and what it looks like, and how a company a company is to start it and buy into it and change their mindset from what marketing means today. And what I've been finding is when I'm interviewing, and I have companies calling me now, which is great, but some of them don't even have never have had a marketing budget. So when you're starting to push digital to them, it's difficult. It's difficult. And I would love to pick both your brains to talk about, we know in business, depending on revenues, we know marketing should be, let's just say 8 to 12%. If it's really high revenue, it could go down from there. But now, what's the mix between your old school marketing? We'll say, tangible items like flyers and things like that, bus benches, billboards, and this thing called digital. And to sit down and talk to my clients about digital right now, it's tough for them. And the first thing they say, and I'm sure you guys will giggle, when will I see sales? When are people going to buy my product? And I have to stop and say, whoa. There are different aspects to this communication on the digital realm. There is organic, there is paid, there is your website, and one relies on the other. So when I start talking about this, you can see numbers people are thinking, well, how much is this going to cost? And especially for a company that hasn't marketed and has depended on referrals, I hear that word a lot. They've been caught now. And what I'm trying to push in my discovery sessions with my clients, and I can talk about models that work really well, hybrid models and stuff, kind of what we have, Faisal. What I try to say is, okay, guys, let's take this a step at a time, because you shouldn't bother about doing social media if your website is not clean, clear, concise, and easy to navigate. Let's start there first.
Yes.
Right? Because all your other avenues, your social and your digital paid campaign strategy is going to funnel in to a landing spot where there's a value proposition and people understand what they're getting. What Shane is doing and what he has been doing, Shane Homes and some other builders and even some other brands, is this is a time, and Faisal, you have talked about this, to expose your brand and let us in. So if that means having a camera and showing us your process, showing us your team, showing us how you cook that meal, showing us all that stuff, because of the phase out and the regulations and 50% occupancy for some places and stuff, why would I want to come and help you or support you if you're not letting me know what I'm missing? And so that's what digital does. You can't get that from a newspaper. You can't get that from bus benches. You can't get any of that close trust building, value add. And so my struggle is trying to explain all that to a company that's never done it. It's a struggle.
So let's segue to Shane. Because it's more than just the communication side that you're going through, Shane. What has been your biggest challenge still going, a few months into this pandemic?
That I'm not 5 years further ahead. No, we managed the digital change pretty easy, actually. We had a change in our management team last fall, and I was able to bring in a digital expert, and she made a significant change, I'd say an absolute flip from traditional media towards digital starting January 1. So we were definitely ahead of the curve there. When it comes down to social media, well, I've been a huge believer in that for a number of years. Personally, I've been on it for 10. But even a couple of years ago, we brought in an expert and started talking to our salespeople about it, because there were a few of them kind of playing around, and there were most of them who really had no reason to be on there. So even now, they've stepped up their game, and they're starting to learn that, okay, we don't have physical bodies coming through the show homes the way we used to. They were used to maybe about 20 different couples coming in per week. Now they're down to 2. So they have to go out there and actually prospect now. So this is a huge mind shift for the way that they do business. And kudos to them, because they're learning very quickly, very rapidly. But, it always helps when, I have a great champion on the other end in our GM of sales and marketing as well. But we have done a complete flip from traditional media with our digital plan right now. That helps.
This kind of is a good segue, Shane. I think one thing that I really promote on my social media for entrepreneurs and business owners is that there are 5 key elements or pillars in order to be successful in a business. And I call them the 5 Ps. So we say people, product, process, passion, and get paid. Those 5 Ps, if you focus on all those individual pillars and master them, then your business is going to flourish. And you're kind of going through the process. So let's start there. Shane, walk us through that change that you made from the process of how you communicated, and we'll use the word marketing, even though I don't like that word anymore, the way that you communicated and marketed to your customers. How did that change, and what triggered it?
Well, what triggered it was, COVID pushed us over the edge. We were moving in that direction. But, and we had a very similar philosophy. We just call it something different. We call it a balanced scorecard. So, we tended to focus on the process, the customer, the financials, and the people in our organization. So what you're talking about is very similar. But we knew that we had to get the message out, not only internally, but externally to our customers. So again, they knew that, everything was going to be okay. So we did that through a process of, starting to add in video and more digital messages to tell them, we're open, we're here, come on out. And if you have any concerns, please let us know, because we had our salespeople physically either talking, texting, or emailing their customers to tell them what was going on, just to keep them in the loop, so they knew that everything was going to continue on the way that it normally would with the building of their home. So that certainly worked out well for us.
Sorry, Shane. I'm getting
Go
a
ahead.
bit more messages and questions coming in from Facebook right now. Nadeem is asking about organic versus pay-per-click and all this stuff coming to you.
Perfect.
So walk me through your process and how it changed with this pandemic in your business. And then let's address Nadeem's question when it comes to the type of marketing or communication. Is it organic or pay-per-click if you had to choose one?
Is this for Arif or for Shane? Or
Arif,
for
sorry.
me or
Yeah,
for
Arif,
Shane?
sorry. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Arif,
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, great question, and I'm glad that came up. So let me tell you guys, I'm sure we could be 2 to 3 hours on this call, so there might be a part 2, part 3. But I'm going to try not to. I'm going to try not to hijack this live because there's a lot of passion I have, and there's been a lot of meetings over the few years and stuff. So that's a great question. How do you choose between organic, social, and pay-per-click? So this is what I'm going to say. There is a phased approach, in my opinion, to digital. And it first starts off, again, with your website, okay? Your branding, your logo, all of that stuff. Make sure the user experience is one that is top-notch, okay? So we'll assume your website is dialed in, it says what you do, and you're solving, you're identifying a problem that you can solve, okay? The second piece is social media organic, okay? So organic means you're really not putting any money behind it. It is your video, it is your photography, it is your messaging, your copy, your hashtags, all of that. When you look at social media, there are a ton of different channels that your business can be on. So the first thing you want to do is identify what you do and if you should be on TikTok or not, right? If you should be on Instagram or not, or Facebook. So my advice is 1 to 3 social channels. Don't try to do them all, because you won't do them all well. Even if it's just one and you are a fit for Instagram, you need to identify that. And how do you identify that? Well, you either work with your marketing team, you work with a firm like ours, or you do a hybrid model where there's a marketing team and then there's an outside source to kind of give that unbiased, open view of what's ahead. It doesn't matter how you do it. And so you identify why your brand should be on a certain channel, and each channel has its own following. So an Instagram following is very different from a LinkedIn following. And so you have to make sure that when you're doing your content, that you're driving content that is interesting to that following, and that you're engaging, and that you're building this community around your brand. That takes 6 to 12 months minimum. And I get people rolling their eyes all the time because they want a quick fix. Social media organic is not a sales tool. It can help. Yeah, it can help, but it is not a sales tool. So let's assume your website is dialed in, your social media is now getting some life, you're getting followers, you're getting trust, people like what you're putting out. You'll know by their comments that they like your socks, your ties, your food. Now you can think about the sales side of things, and that is a digital campaign strategy. So that's where we're talking about Google AdWords, Google Display Ads, Facebook ads, which Facebook is still extremely good at an ad strategy. It's not the greatest for organic growth, but now you've got a foundation to drive people or messaging, and they can go and explore about your brand and see your reviews and see your website. And there's a form to fill out, so it funnels down into an action that you want. And what you want is a sale, a lead, whatever the case may be. In my opinion, that is kind of, and there's other things, mail outs and all this stuff, but I'm just going to kind of give you the big three. Website presence, start building your social media. It's going to take time. It is a patience and a long game. And then you can strap on a digital ad strategy. So Faisal, you know this very well. We've talked about this. We have a hybrid model. It works absolutely amazing. Faisal's team is embedded, but we're also very integrated, and we understand your brand as well. So we can kind of give you that outside perspective and complement the team. So I would say for that question, Nadeem, I would say you can follow those steps and it'll yield better success. Shane, maybe you've done the same thing, but that's what I would say.
That's where it comes down to process. So you need a marketing or communication process. It's just not a good idea at the time and let's try it. I'm a victim of that idea. I've tried to throw different things and see what sticks. Not a good strategy. I've learned from that. So you need to have a process. And I think that's, no matter what part of your business, Shane, you can talk about how you build fantastic homes. There's a process. You start from a point and get to the very end, and there has to be a process so it can be replicable. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. And so I think process right now going into this next wave, this pandemic point 2 is what I call it, because we're not completely done yet. And we just heard from the from AHS saying that they're not going to have this social distancing thing relaxed until we have a vaccine. That could be 12 to 18 months from now. So we have to be prepared to have these processes and so forth. Shane, I wanted to ask you about people. You've got many people working for you directly in the company, a lot of trades or individuals that are not employees, but you work arm's length with them. Walk me through what changes do you see happening on how you deal with people going forward?
Well, I'm kind of like you with the with not having a vaccine available. I mean, and there's no telling what's going to happen with social distancing. We've had to spread out the trades a little bit more when they're on site. So where we're really trying to cram people in and make sure that one is there right after the other, we may not be able to do that moving forward. And we haven't been able to do that for the last 10, 11 weeks. So that eventually stretches out the process a little bit more, but, we can accept, that it's going to take 2 or 3 days longer to get some of this stuff done. But, it's moving forward. It could be a bit of a challenge, especially when you start looking at some of the changes that are coming down the line with codes in new homes. So we're doing our best to manage it, and so far so good. We'll just kind of knock on wood there and hope for the best. But we are going to work our way through it. I love the get paid one too, because there's a certain value attached to your product. And I think this will really be a challenging time moving forward for a lot of Calgary businesses, is getting paid. I think we're really at the cusp of how businesses, are really going to begin to struggle. We're right into it, but we're right at the tip of it, to be honest.
Yeah, and Mike on Facebook was talking about transparency and how it's important that we are more and more transparent with our customers and with the public. One, to give them a sense of security, that there's less risk when they're entering or going into your homes or your facility or working with you. You have maintained some sort of security for them. But there's also the transparency of how your business works and what's going on there. And I think when we look at this, we have to have that conversation about the communication piece and how we're communicating to our potential customers, our existing customers, our employees, our individuals that we work with, arm's length, those types of things. And I think this is where things are changing. And so, Arif, when it comes to your business, there's been a change with working with people. What I recall, there's been many, many people that used to work in a company like yours, and the concept of just now working on contract or being arm's length from your business is very popular, not in yours specifically, but in your industry. So how do you deal with the people when they're not exactly employees, but they're on contract with you?
It's a great question. In my past life, I worked in HR and I interviewed a lot of people. So here's what I say about that. It all starts with the leadership's mentality. Okay, we're talking labels here. So contractors, employees. I've always interviewed on not on the label, on the person and how they buy into your brand and what they want to do for your brand. The structure of it, sure. In my field, there's stuff that's outsourced. It's the same in the build industry, and there's stuff internal. But I do not treat my employees any different, and I'm always involving them to the same level that I would if it was a staff employee. So I think that's the first thing. I think you're going to get back with how you treat your staff. And so if you treat them and share with them as you would an employee, they're going to act like that. And I haven't had a problem outside of performance. That's different. You're going to get that with a staff employee or a contractor. Yeah. It doesn't matter. They love what we're doing. They love our clients. And I will be honest, and I'm saying this on air, I've not had to let go of anyone, but we've had to add more value. And I understand that maybe what I'm paying out today isn't the same as 3 months ago. But I'll tell you, they've all stuck by because they believe in my brand and they believe in, more importantly, in my clients. They treat my clients as if they're a staff member. And so I think it's a culture thing. I think it's an integration. It comes from the top. It comes from me. To ensure that they are to be treated equally. And you know what? My clients, I do have quite a few clients in the build industry. I watch them with their trades and with their internal staff, no difference. So structurally it's different, but I think if you treat them like they're part and that they're adding value and you appreciate it, we're all human beings. We're going to react in a certain way. So yeah, and I try, right now I do have kind of a hybrid model, and it's working, and I'm keeping people employed, which is great. So yeah, I mean, it's been working out for us.
Shane, we've got a question on Instagram about digital and traditional marketing, the mediums that you've used over your years in your business, and you've seen this shift, but you still do some old school conventional type of marketing. So walk me through, how do you find a good balance between those two?
I'm going to go back to my original comment from months ago. I mean, market research. You have to find out where your customer base is, and oddly enough, I mean, this past week we had our demographic surveys come through, and we can target where people are actually coming from by a age group, by a area, So that's how you manage your happy balance. Is really looking at your customer base and where they want to find their information now. Is it more digital? Yes, it is. Ask me the same question 6 months from now, once the economies open up a little bit more, and hopefully. We're not dealing with a second wave, but if we are, we'll have a chance to survey them again and find out exactly, where they're going to for their news source, where they want to find their home information. And that's crucial. That was one of the things that I highlighted before is research.
And part of that research,
I don't even know at this point, to be totally honest, is where the customers' mindsets are. And I'm waiting until we can actually get them back out there.
And part of your research that you've done is you've actually surveyed clients, customers, potential customers. You're actually doing some research there. You're not just guessing or doing a Google search and hopefully it works out for you. You're actually speaking to people. And I think that's one key thing that people that own businesses need to do regardless of the business. When they say, I had no idea this is what my customer wanted, well, you're not listening to your customer. And Shane, when it comes to listening to your customer, what's been the shift that you've been going through when it comes to building a home with this whole pandemic?
Well, they just want to be kept informed. They want to be communicated with, Faisal. Again, we had questions like, are we still open? Are we still in business, or are we shutting down? Well, fortunately, we were regarded as an essential service, so we were able to stay open and operate, thankfully. But to be able to communicate that message to them that we were open. We were open in the show homes. We were still open for business, but we had to accommodate their concerns over COVID and still make the process one that they could enjoy, one that they could buy into. And I think we did that relatively successfully, utilizing communication, digital as well, and video as a medium as well.
How about your product, Shane? Has anything changed, or you think will change in how you build a home?
I think it will. It's really early to tell. Like I said, you want to get people back out there, and you want to get their feelings. You want to kind of tap into their emotion and find out, what do you want to see different? So we assume at this point with people working from home that they're going to want that home-based business. They're going to want that office space again. So how do you accommodate that moving forward? We already have a smart home system built into to our specifications, but what is everybody's dream of what the ideal home office look like if they're able to work from home, or if we're assuming rather that they may even move their business into their home rather than into a bricks and mortar operation. And those are just assumptions at this point, and hopefully down the line, at least before the end of the year, we'll be able to test that live and find out.
One of the key things about being an entrepreneur is having passion. Every single entrepreneur that I've talked to, put on my show, has a passion for making a difference or doing things differently. Arif, when you're dealing with business owners, do you find that there are some business owners that just don't have that passion? They're not in the zone. They just want to carry on just doing business the way it was and not have that passion?
Great question. Yes. So again, I'll go back to pre-COVID. The Alberta economy, you guys know best. We've had some rocky last couple of years, but the businesses that have been functioning and going fine, kind of just stay in that mindset. Okay. Again, words like, we've never had to market or whatever. We've been having referrals. Things are good, status quo, blah, blah, blah. And then this COVID hits. And that's where the word, again, you get exposed. You get exposed to yourself thinking, are you an entrepreneur? Because an entrepreneur in times like this, complacency has no seat at the table. Right. So it's fine when cash flow is coming in and business is coming in, because all you're thinking is operating and going. But when this hit, it smacked a lot of us in the face, and that scares me. So my goal, just obviously on the digital marketing side, is to help business owners or entrepreneurs not make this mistake again. Like Shane, be ahead of the game. Look at the trends, see what your competition's doing. If they're bare minimum doing digital, you should be doing it, and add another 20% to give your own flair and your own voice. But this has knocked a lot of and I'm going to say there are still some out right now that say we're fine. And you know what? I pray you guys are. Good. But I think there's a lag with all this. And Faisal, you would know better. On how these things roll out. Do we feel it 6 to 8 months from now? I don't know. What I do want to say is, do not call yourself, you've owned a business, that's great, it's been operating fine, but I think you have to reevaluate what the word entrepreneur means. And in today's world, an entrepreneur, and I hate using this word because entrepreneurism has been it's like the cool thing to do, but there's real business owners out there that grind and work hard. And now's the time to even grind and even work harder. And like you said, show us who you are. Let us in. Let's get some trust building going on, and we will support your business, and we will continue to. But that's work. It's not just going to come now. It's not going to fall in your lap. And I think that's the miss. I think, yes, you've owned a business for 10 years or 15 years, and then the world literally got shook, and we all went on the same level field. And the ones that are starting to rise and kind of work through this are, in my opinion, the real entrepreneurs, the ones that are pivoting, thinking outside the box, having mentors like, yourself, Faisal, consulting with coaches, consulting with, all types of different parts of accountants, all of this stuff to say, I want this, I want to continue this. We need to pivot, we need to change, I need help. Let's go. The ones that are sitting there saying, oh, shit, what do we do now? Are the ones that you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, maybe I got some more work to do here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Shane, when it comes to getting paid, we got a question from Mike on Facebook talking about business property taxes. By the way, my taxes for my home, my property taxes went up too. So it's also on the residential side. At the end of the day, this all filters down to making a profit.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
How do businesses get paid if these types of expenses keep on going up?
That's going to be a challenge moving forward. And I sympathize with the groups downtown. They've been hit the hardest. Well, and you're seeing a bit of a change. You're seeing people kind of move out of the core because, prior to COVID, they were having a challenge really making this business model work. I mean, when you're used to making maybe $100,000 a year and you see that profit cut in half, you begin to ask the question, why am I even doing this? Yeah. So you're only left with the opportunity, or the only choice rather, of moving out of there and trying to find a cheaper way of doing business. So that's certainly a challenge, and that's, I guess, one reason why I see people, where they're capable of, moving their operation into their home and at least combining those expenses, or at least bringing them down. And that's great from my perspective. But where does that leave bricks and mortar moving forward? That's a scary proposition for Calgary.
Arif, I'm going to ask you this question, and Shane, I would love for you to jump in on this one too. There have been surveys and some analysis done by economists in this province. Between 25 and 30% of businesses will shut down because of this pandemic. Do you agree or disagree with that?
Shane, you can go first, or I guess I'll go first. Faisal, that's a really good question, and one that I discuss with my wife on a daily basis. It's funny because, I texted you this morning and I said, Faisal, markets are doing great. Even the analysts are saying, what's going on? My fear. And so, I want to be positive about that. But is there a lag? And, on social media, I'm seeing businesses flourishing. People are doing great. They're adapting. But do we really understand what's happening behind the scenes? And so my conclusion is, I think there's going to be a massive, as Shane said, the brick and mortar. We're already seeing it in some of the big box. We're seeing it, I think, some really big names that have been in malls. If you walk through Market Mall, guys, you're going to see some big brands that are no longer there. And so are we, so yes, I think we're going to get nailed on that physical store to walk into. But I think there's going to be some sort of opportunity or a new business, a new type of way of doing business, whether it's e-commerce or whatever the case may be, that's going to just start to grow out of this. And we as consumers have to think about if it's going to be something we like and that we're going to adapt to. I can order my clothing from Zara and it's going to fit me and it feels exactly the same as walking in the store, or it's not. And so that's my fear. So I think we're going to see a dip, and then we're going to see some frustrations. And just quickly, I want to talk about the office idea. So for the first, we'll say 6 to 7 weeks, my team has been able to operate remotely. But now I'm starting to feel that miss. There's a gap there between that human connection and sitting together and working through problems. And I'm struggling with that. And Faisal, you know this. I've talked to you about this. It's starting to show, and the virtual is helping, but it's not the same as a powwow. You can go across the to the other office, grab whoever you need to get a quick answer. Now you're trying to get them on. Are you available? When can we have a call? Like it's a little bit difficult. So to your question, yes, I think businesses will brick and mortar will suffer, unfortunately, but I think there's going to be an resurgence of something else, and I think it's going to be on the digital side.
Shane, what about you? 25 to 30% of businesses are going to shut down in this province?
I'm concerned about that for sure. I'm worried about 25 to 30% unemployment as well. And I can relate to Arif's experience. We went with obviously some people working remotely and doing split shifts in the office, and that seemed great at the time. For some of them, I mean, they love the fact that they could work in their pajamas at home. But even now, they're coming back saying, I miss the interaction that I used to have. It's just not the same doing a Zoom call or talking over the phone. And a quick example would be our sales team, because we have a number of people in there. We don't have a large enough boardroom to accommodate it and meet the social distancing as it's been laid out. So the last week we had a sales meeting in the parking lot of our building, and just simply to bring everybody together, and they appreciated that, but it just wasn't the same, so it's a different experience all over. But when it comes down to bricks and mortar, yeah, I mean, I've seen that, and I guess my biggest question is when it comes to the younger generation. My son is a good example. He's a part of that younger generation. He's 20 years old, and he loves to shop online. I don't know how he does it with clothing. I can't do it because I have to distinguish between, what is a large and what is a skinny large. I can't fit the skinny large as well anymore. So when that damn shirt shows up, I'm shipping it back. So it's it'll be interesting. But I agree with Arif is that it's going to be a different experience, and I think you'll see, and I see a question that's popped up about bricks and mortar. But I think you'll see that might take a bit of a kicking for the next short while. And then people are going to be looking for that experience. They're going to be looking for, that opportunity to actually go back to the mall and do that physical shopping again.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen at some point. It won't be exactly the same. Let's go back to 9/11 after the terrorist attacks. Everybody thought they're going to be traveling completely different, and it was the experience getting onto the plane and getting off the plane that changed. The destinations were the same, but the overall experience was different getting there and coming back. And that's going to probably happen in some of these places where there has to be some sort of adjustment. And part of this adjustment is people are taking a hit. And if we have high unemployment rate in Alberta, if we have many businesses shutting down, it's going to be a challenge getting paid. So Arif, you've seen some of your potential customers come to you and say, I don't want to spend that much. How do you determine value and get paid in this type of economy?
So value, in my opinion, is not just monetary. So, and I say this to my group, it's not about just dollars and cents. Value is things like communication process. one of the complaints that I used to get, or that I get when I meet with a new client, is they've worked with another firm in the past, but good luck on getting a response in 2 days. So we set up,
Wow.
again, keyword communication. We right away set up a WhatsApp group for each brand. I don't care if you want to text me at 7 p.m. Now I try to hold balance, but we get back within 12 hours always. And so to me, that's a value add, because if someone's spending money today or at any time, they're spending good money. How do we return back? And so it's things like that. It's having everyone at the table and strategizing and caring about your brand, as opposed to just being transactional. I think Calgary, in the past, because money it was definitely more abundant than it is now, very transactional, very, oh yeah, you're paying me for this. This is all you're going to get. If you want more, it's going to be this. Well, that's, you're not adding any value to your client if that's your mentality. So I think it's a shift. I think doing what you can, as long as your books make sense for your client, is a good thing. Yes, they're going to negotiate pricing, but as a business owner, you know your numbers, you know what you value, you add. And I think it's okay to walk away and say no. And to be honest, it's okay to walk away and say no, even if your business is going to close, because you cannot put yourself in a dark hole because you're spending money now just trying to please a client. So really talk to your clients on what value means to your business and how you're going to help them. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, thank you for telling me that. That is important to me. And if that's part of your process, we'd love to have you on board.
Shane, let me go to you on this one. You're probably going to see some of your competitors either compete on price. I think there's going to be a difference in how your competitors will define what value is. How are you going to compete and get paid in this new economy we're going to be facing?
Well, you know what? I've always said that, that we're 80% the same, 20% different. And I think, where you define yourself in that 20% is really coming down to the experience that people have. I'm proud to say that we have consistency in our staffing, especially in our sales team. We have a number of people who have been with us for a long time. I call them seasoned veterans. But it really starts off there, and that's where you begin to prove the value of your offering. Is that we're here for you. We've been here for a long time. We're not going to leave. We're not going to go anywhere. But we want you to have the best experience possible. And I think that's applicable to any business out there. Is that we offer a great value. We want you to have a great experience in our storefront or what have you. So I think that's going to define a business, and that's part of the equation. And the other part is the social giving that they do. There are businesses out there that do care deeply about this city and about this province, and thankfully they do, because that's how we get out of the mess that's been created. We're going to stand up for Calgarians and for Albertans, and we're going to support them. Whether it's a bit of a hard hit or not, we're still going to come out. We're still going to shop. We're still going to buy. We're still going to appreciate what we have here. And I think that's one of the the word I'm looking for here is that's one of the benefits that has come out of all of this. Is I think it's really it's a great opportunity of bringing people together.
We've got about a couple minutes left. I want you to, each of you, give your final thoughts. So we'll start with you, Arif. What's some advice and final thoughts you can give to business owners as we go into the new economy?
I think the first thing is reflection. So think about where you came from. Think about the last 10 to 11 weeks and be very honest with yourself. Ask the questions on why you're in business and what you want, what problems you want to help with. And really, really, really think about that. And then from there, as Shane says, people are coming together. There are mentors out there. There are people that want to help. There are groups that are getting together to get through this. So find yourself a network, find yourself a mentor. Faisal, you've been a phenomenal mentor. Real Talk is a huge asset. And I would say that if you have a skill that you can share with all of us on social media, please share it. Maybe you've got some pointers for us. The word community is big, and do not be afraid. You're not going to look bad if you ask for help, because we all need help. And so what other businesses out there are going through what you're going through? How can you help each other? How can you leverage each other's strengths and look forward? Start thinking about a different way of doing business. Because I do feel that out of every kind of downturn or anything, there's going to be something that grows from this. So, yeah.
Shane, how about you? Yeah, I would agree with what Arif's just said. But I guess to add to that, go through the budget, go through every line item, one by one, what's necessary, what's not, because we all know that in the budget, there's a lot of unnecessary stuff. We have to cut, we have to do it just for a short period of time. And quite honestly, if you can survive the storm, you can survive this. Yeah. We will get through this, and it's just going to take a little bit longer. I mean, we've had 4 or 5 years to practice already, so this this should be a lot easier to make it through.
Great advice from great business leaders and entrepreneurs. Shane, Arif, I want to thank you both for joining me today. This is fantastic. When we talk about sharing our experiences, not only are you learning from each other, but there are thousands amongst thousands of people that are learning from you. So thank you for joining me today.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, so for all of you, join us Friday, 5 p.m. Another Real Talk Live. We're going to talk to Kelly Rudy about what's happening on reopening the NHL. This is going to be great. And we're going to talk about the business of hockey and think about all the other businesses that actually depend on the NHL. How's this going to impact you? Friday, 5 p.m., Real Talk Live, Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for joining us tonight.